when I was a monk in my 20s, I really appreciate now as I've got older to kind of really bring that awareness into myself. But now I'm so lucky kind of bringing this awareness into the members that we have at Peloton.
Welcome to Flip Your Script, the podcast about life's critical turning points and how people find the inspiration and motivation to move forward and rewrite their unique stories. Flip Your Script is produced by Media Minefield, a public relations firm passionate about the power of sharing stories. Specializing in earned and social media, Media Minefield helps clients take control of their unique story and message. The show is hosted by Kristi Piehl, founder and CEO of Media Minefield, who flipped her script from an Emmy-winning journalist to a successful entrepreneur and speaker.
To welcome today's guest, I can't do it any better than he does on his own Twitter bio. Ex-Buddhist monk, likes to wander the world, addicted to ice cream, popcorn, and deadlifts, Peloton instructor. It's a pleasure to welcome Sam Yo, who flipped his script from monk to motivator to the Flip Your Script podcast. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, your story has gotten a lot of publicity because, all the Peloton instructors become personas and they become stories and have followers. But yours is so interesting because you went from Buddhist monk to Peloton, and Peloton isn't exactly known for quiet, calm, and most people don't show up to have quiet, calm, and you somehow blend the excitement of the working out with the mindfulness. So let's start with the Buddhist monk part of your life. How did that come about, and what did you learn there?
So I became a Buddhist monk in Thailand in my I think I was 24 when I went into the monastery. So I've always been sort of curious about my culture and background, being brought up first generation in London. And every Sunday I was sent to Sunday school. And I was taught by monks. So monks were this kind of, body of information and knowledge. And I was always fascinated by monks as well, because they seem to have the answer to every question that I would ask them. And, what better way to learn more than just sort of become a monk and sort of jump into the deep end. And sort of at the time I was doing theatre and I finished a show. And within the space of a week, I went from sort of the West End stage to sitting in my monastery hut by myself in my robes, thinking, wow, it was just such a big shift. But it was something I always wanted to do, like deep down, sort of that kind of identity, to find out my identity through my culture.
So when you tell your family and friends, I know you just saw me on stage. I'm a theater performer, and now I'm going to go be a Buddhist monk. What kind of reaction did you get?
My friends were they thought I was joking. My friends thought I was joking. I said, no, this is something I'm going to do. I'm going to do this because my friends, I've never kind of voiced it to my friends. It was one of the things I've always it was an internal dialogue I always had myself. It was a bit more to discover where I'm from, the culture. And I always feel like, to move forward, you have to kind of embrace the past and understand the past. And what we used to do quite a lot was every year go back to Thailand to visit my family and my grandmother. And my grandmother would always tell me stories about when she was young and what it was like then. And, how she worked so hard to raise 5 kids. Basically, they made soya milk and just literally sold it on the cart, and she raised 5 kids. And then coming to the point where I'm sort of in a sort of more kind of privileged environment where I have all these things and needs, and just to be a bit more in tune and a bit more appreciative of what the sacrifices have happened before me. And hopefully, going forward that, I can sort of level up my children and my family going forward as well.
So you have this cultural identity, seek out the past, and this spiritual interest. Did you find while you were a monk what you went there looking for?
I found much more, because I went in there just to kind of understand a bit more about my culture and where I was from. And it gave me the means to understand more about myself and others, and to appreciate others, and to try and see through others' eyes. So sometimes you're in a conversation and you're not quite clicking. So it's the ability to take yourself out of the conversation and put yourself in that person's seat, to try and understand what is it trying to say, why am I not connected to them. And it could be with something about their experience in the past that you know about, which can be, why we're clashing. We used to sit in a circle. So as monks, we used to sit in a circle so we could all see each other. So we're all on the same level, and that way the conversation would flow. Because sometimes when you're just face to face, it seems that back and forth, but the conversation would flow in a circle, which felt really nice.
Have you taken not just what you learned, but how you have interacted with people? You shared some of it. And when you come to the real world, I use that in quotes because when you come out of that environment, was it hard to go from living like that, in that really community and exploring yourself and peace, to what is the hustle and bustle of real life?
It was a surprise. I found it very noisy. I found everything very noisy, just the environment and people as well. People very noisy. So when we were monks, we would speak to each other, but sometimes there'll be just moments of silence when you didn't have to speak. And there's so much clarity in the silence. I think sometimes, especially when we're out in the real world, we always feel that we have to have our say and talk all the time. But there's, the silence gives us clarity, and it's the simplicity of it as well.
Do you encourage other people to spend time, maybe not as a monk, but spend quality, intentional time in silence to learn something about themselves, about their past? Is that something we should all do?
I encourage people to be able to know when they need to stop, because it kind of feels like sometimes we're constantly moving. And sometimes we just need that little, I wouldn't say pause, but that really realignment. So we can kind of realign, but still continue to move forward in the right way.
I'm not familiar with how being a monk works. No surprise. So is there you sign up for 9 months, or someday you just say, I'm going to leave now, I got what I needed? How does the exit work?
So, I was there for nearly 10 months. I originally was going to go in the monastery for like a month or 2 months, just to kind of see what I can get out of it. And I wouldn't say enjoyed, in a sense. I just felt so connected to it, so I stayed so much longer. So the first 2 months, my mom was in Thailand with me because she was afraid that I would starve to death, because I've got a very Western palate and I'm not great with spicy food. So she would always make sure there was offerings of food that I could eat in my monk bowl and stuff. But afterwards, it was nice when she was there. That it was nicer when she was away, which I kind of felt that I could really embrace the whole situation.
So once you left, how much time elapsed, and how did you get to be a Peloton instructor?
So when I left the monastery, I think it was about 2 weeks, and then I went and did a show. So I've been offered to do a show, and I kind of felt like, my time in the monastery, I learned quite a lot, and I felt it was the right time to leave and trying to take this knowledge and this self-awareness about myself back into the real world. And I went from the monastery. I went from the musicals to the monastery in a week, and I went from the monastery back to a musical within 2 weeks. And it was so funny because I didn't have any eyebrows, so one of my friends had to kind of pencil eyebrows for me.
Because in the monastery, you remove all of your hair.
Yeah, we remove all the hair and eyebrows as well. I didn't know that you had to remove eyebrows until the monk shaved it off. I was like, wait, did he just shave my eyebrows? Was that a mistake? And then he shaved the other one off. I didn't know until he did it.
Maybe it's good you didn't know.
Yeah.
You go from one sort of environment, shock the system the other way, and then back on the stage. And then you're a spin instructor, and you're approached by Peloton, and was there a lot of time that elapsed there? Did you get to adjust back to life?
Yes, I did. But when I was in the temple, I was in my 20s. So from 20s to now, I'm in my 40s. So there's a lot of life that's been gone there. And I did a lot of film and TV and things, which kind of in the entertainment industry. And during that course of time, I got qualified as a personal trainer because I just love movement, the physicality. I played a lot of football when I was younger. I did like Taekwondo, Muay Thai, and then I went and did ballet, classical ballet, jazz and all that. And that's how I got into doing musicals, was originally as a dancer and then as an actor and a singer. So during the course of maybe 15 years in the industry, when Peloton approached me, I actually got to the point where I kind of felt of leaving the entertainment industry, but I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And, the universe, just Peloton just came and said, hey, want to try out to be a Peloton instructor? I was like, Peloton, what's Peloton? Literally, that's what I was like, what's Peloton? Yeah, so we went through this whole audition process and training process.
You have one of these stories, and it happens to so many people, where something the public perceives interesting happens, and then you're sort of defined by it. So you can't really Google you without finding the references monk to Peloton. And yet, as you just explained, there's a decade of life in between, and there's 20 years before the monastery. Does it bother you that you get so boxed into these sort of two identities when you've done so many other things, or are you fine with that?
No, not at all. I mean, I guess with everything, those are two things that stick out, isn't it? If you kind of went through like a bullet point, you meant what, monk, what, those are the things that stick out. And, when I was a monk in my 20s, I really appreciate now as I've got older to kind of really bring that awareness into myself. But now I'm so lucky kind of bringing this awareness into the members that we have at Peloton. And, and it's kind of, I try to do it unconsciously as well, just really connect the physical and the mental together. I mean, there's always a connection there. And a lot of time before, you just think it's a physical effort, but you have to back up that mental grounding.
When we talked about this just briefly before we started recording, and it's really fascinating to me how I'm a big Peloton person. KP Hustles is my name. I talk about it. I love it. It changed my pandemic life and will going forward. I think what's interesting about all of you instructors is that you have really big followings. You're fitness people, and perhaps because you had TV and film and theater experience, maybe it isn't as surprising to you. But I don't know that many fitness instructors go into it so that they can be some kind of celebrities. And I'm sure people recognize you, and you probably get weird DMs and all the things. Was that surprising to you, especially since when Peloton approached you, you didn't know who they were and what they did?
No, I mean, I didn't. And, when I was doing the meetings with the folks in America, and they're like, are you ready for this? This is really going to change your life. And I didn't quite grasp the concept until I was in New York and training, and just seeing how, the admiration that the members had for the instructors. And there was something that Cody said, because Cody was the master trainer who taught me. He said, you've got to remember, when they see you, they've seen you every single day. You're in their house. Their kids know the sound of your voice, your face. So you are a member of the family. So that's why we say Peloton is a family, because we're there. And I think, that's why I guess we get a lot of followers out, because the family is so big, I guess.
It's a big family.
Yeah.
As you've done it now for some time, what parts of it are your favorite?
So many. I mean, I like when we get a theme right, I like being, very creative and creating something, like when I did my Bon Jovi ride, I did a recent Bollywood, and I did a Silk Sonic ride recently. So I can, really have a narrative in there and really have fun with it. And so, as a performer, you kind of want that as well, but still kind of the grounding is still a fitness class. And I love when, we've got members reaching out to say, how much my classes help them, and it really motivates me and encourages me as well to keep going, because you've got to think at the end of the day, when the cameras are on, I'm just a guy in a room by myself on a bike. And, and then it's the experience with the members afterwards and on the social media when I reach out, it opens it up that what I do is of service to all these people around the world. and not just sitting on the bike talking to myself, which, which is kind of what it is in a way.
Because right now there are all of the people that typically would be in the studio riding with you aren't there. So you really are talking to all these people, but alone.
Yeah.
Your style, how would you describe your style as an instructor?
So I've said it before, I'm not here to kick your butt. I'm here to make you realize your butt can go further. It's a very kind of like, I'm here for you, but this is all about you. And I'm going to give you the tools and the knowledge to push yourself further, which is, I think, for all my teaching, for all my teachers, as my ballet teachers, my football coaches, that's the way that's worked for me the best. Is that self-discovery with guidance.
And you have it's almost strange, calming sense while kicking someone's butt, because I don't know if it's the accent or the tone of your voice, but there's something where it's like, ooh, I kind of want to swear at you, but you're so nice. And you have, the mindfulness and stay present and breathing. And so it does feel like, in knowing your story a little bit and what I've read about you, that you've pulled pieces from all the parts of your professional life into who you are as an instructor and what you bring to the bike and to the mat. Is that how it feels to you as well?
Definitely. Like I said, it's like Peloton is a marriage of all of these experiences I've had in the past. And, the calmness that you say, it's just, for me, to achieve something, you have to have the foundation and a little focus. And I try and be as focused as possible within myself. And I hope that comes across on the screen to the members taking it home.
Is it hard, though? There have to be days where the coffee spills, you are late, something's happening, and yet you get it together and show up calm, cool, and collected every day. Is that hard some days? Like this morning, I was up at 5 o'clock and I had like early classes, and I was up last night watching Netflix to a bit. Like was binge watching Castlevania, which is this animation. So I had to watch one. So I should have had more sleep. So I got up and I was tired. I think, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But what happens is at the beginning, when the pre-show comes and all the members light up and log in, so you can see who's coming into the class. And I see the same regular names who show up in the mornings with me. There's like Tony Top Dog, there's Groover Chew, there's Smiles for Miles, and I see them. I think, oh my God, it really gets me going. It's like when I used to do the early morning classes and I see the members coming through the door, it kind of feels like that for me. And that's what picks me up. They boost you, you boost them. Yes. So you have this platform, you have this following, and you've used it to say some important things, and you've leaned into some difficult topics. You've talked about Asian hate. You've talked about discrimination. You've talked about some of the things you've experienced. Was it a difficult decision or an easy decision for you to decide to step in to some of these conversations that we've all, as a world, been grappling with in the last year? So, with these things that happen in the world, I have a lot of conversations personally with my family and stuff, and my other half when these things happen, and I do a lot of writing. So I think I wrote something for the output about what happened when I was younger with my father and I. That essay came about because 2019, one of my friends called me up and she was really upset. And this is when the Brexit vote had gone through, and she was really upset. And someone had shouted at her mother, her elderly mother, "Go back to your country." And when you hear that, it just took me back to when the first time I heard it. And, I kind of bullet pointed things in my journal just to remember that. And then years later, when last year, all these attacks were happening on the Asian community, it just reminded me of that. And I went back to my journal and I wrote that essay. I'm so grateful that Peloton, supports everything that we do and the causes like this. And they said, no, we'll put it on our output for people to read. It's a story that, everyone needs to know. And sometimes when members see us, on maybe Instagram, there's the filter there, but there's lots of stuff that happened before. There's lots of moments that have made you as a person, and I guess as a Peloton instructor, which we try and bring and share on our platform. Did you receive a lot of positive feedback when you have been more vulnerable and have shared some things like that?
Yes, definitely. I think being a man as well, sometimes it's difficult for us to kind of show that vulnerability. And I think when we do it, people really appreciate it as well. It's kind of to let go of that shield, say this happened and this is how it affected me, but it hasn't stopped me being who I am and moving forward.
So interesting, because so much of the racism and discrimination is learned, and I believe that in your piece you see some of that as a child you're like, where is this coming from, and I don't understand. And my aunt moved to America from Thailand when I was born, and I never knew, and perhaps it's just the filter in which I lived. And the way that my family treated her, I never knew that she wasn't my blood aunt. I mean, I probably was like 4th or 5th grade and went, oh, wait a minute. I mean, we're big German people, and she's a petite little, I don't know if she was 100 pounds still. And, she had children, and they're my cousins. And I never knew that she was anything different than my auntie. And what's happening in the world right now is just really hard to watch. And you're one of those voices that's out there saying, boy, this isn't new.
Yeah.
People are just talking about it.
Yeah. It's, sometimes people see what you are before they see who you are. That's sometimes when people come into a situation and conversation, that's what they see first. And think it with Peloton, which is nice and it's great, I get the chance to show who I am. I'm very aware that perhaps, I could be in someone's home on the bike and their child has never seen an Asian man before. So the first interaction they have with an Asian man is me on the bike going, put more cadence on, or, showing up with that positivity. I hope it reflects across the screen to our members and, whoever's watching.
Is there pressure? Is there weight in having that responsibility, in having this voice and this platform, and knowing that you need to be present on social, and knowing that people are expecting things, and knowing that you better show up in a certain way? Is there a weight, a pressure of that, or are you used to that because you've been performing for so long?
I wouldn't say weight. I mean, there is, I guess, a pressure, but the pressure is, I'm very grateful for the pressure. Because, there's a lot of times in our lives that we search to have a voice. And when we have a voice, sometimes there's no one listening or hearing. So I'm very grateful to have this pressure to have a voice and for people to hear me and listen.
It's wonderful, because whether millions of people are tuned in watching, thousands of people, or the person sitting across the table from you, we all have a voice and a story. And it's really important to use it and to connect with others.
Definitely.
And next time I'm with friends, I want to have them all sit in a circle, because it sounds like that's a great way to have a conversation.
Yeah. I don't know, something about the energy that flows. We used to sit on the floor as well. We all used to sit on the floor. So we're all on the same level as well. So no one's higher or lower. So we sit on the floor and we're in a circle and the conversation would just flow. I can't explain it. You should try it. And there's so much more that you can express, because you're not like blindsided by someone else. You can see everyone. Literally. Yeah.
I'm going to do this because children do this regularly, right? Children play games that way. They sit that way, but you don't see adults doing that.
Yeah.
I'm trying this. Yeah. Okay. If you're listening and you're a friend of mine, let's figure out a way to get this done and see what happens. So just a couple more questions. You have a Superman tattoo.
Yes.
And you have the Yodas out there associated with you. And so you have this sort of fun, popular culture kind of thing going as well. How do you tell me about the tattoo? Tell me about kind of the other parts of you that seem, again, to be in conflict perhaps with Buddhist monk.
Yeah, I mean, the Superman tattoo was a gift from my best friend when I was 18. I told the story before. I got a Superman tattoo. He got a Batman one. And it's something we discussed when we were like 10 or 12, I think. And then when I turned 18, he called me up and said, you know what I'm going to get for your birthday? I get that Superman tattoo. And we took the bus and we got a tattoo. And he got the Batman one. It was so funny. But I love sort of the very kind of comic book nerdy stuff. Star Wars, my leaderboard name is Super Yoda on Peloton, and Harry Potter. I'm a huge movie fan. I think I really watch every single movie. Like my favorite is, Back to the Future. That was the one that made me think I want to be an actor. Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox, and I think, oh, I want a DeLorean. And when you watch these movies as a kid, it gives you that creativity that these things can be. And that was one of the reasons I went into the acting industry, was to kind of help explore this creativity and this inner child that we have. Yeah.
So in the last year, we've all watched all sorts of Netflix. You referenced it earlier, being at home, watching things. What's your go-to?
What's my go-to? This Is Us.
Oh, yes.
This Is Us. It's hard to watch episodes sometimes without crying, but the performances and the writing, just amazing. And you feel part of this family, don't you? I think it's one of the best things that I've watched in a long time, which I just lose myself into it.
Oh, it's fantastic. Fantastic. One of the questions that we always end the episodes with is has there been a quote, a mantra, something that has motivated you, helped you throughout your journey?
Yes, there's a lyric from Cat Stevens' song. It's, "I let my music take me where my heart wants to go." It's from The Wind.
And that really speaks to your journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could speak to a lot of our journeys as well. It's allowing your music for the world to hear your music, who you are. But when I first heard that line, I was like, oh my God, that's such a great line. And it just resonated with me straight away.
So what's next for you? Where's the music going to take you next, Sam?
Where's the music? Oh, I don't know. I mean, I've taught a lot of different kind of disciplines in my career. So, perhaps maybe in the future I can bring a bit more of that experience onto Peloton, so I can show the members another side of what I've been doing or what I can do.
You talked about your career on stage. What's your favorite musical?
Rent.
And have you ever considered, or would Peloton consider, allowing you to do an a cappella singing while instructing?
Singing while instructing. What I would love to do is to do a lip sync battle ride with Dennis.
That would be fantastic.
A 2-for-1 lip sync battle ride with Dennis. I don't know. I watch Dennis. I love Dennis, and when he gets into the music, I love that. It makes me want to do it, and I don't know. That's something that I don't know. I have to pitch it to my bosses.
It's a great idea. Well, I vote yes. I have no power here, except I'm one rider out of millions, but I vote yes. And you and Dennis are so musical, both of you. You ride very musically, so I could see that really working well.
He works a lot with the beat and the music as well. So when I program my classes, I always try and make sure the beat is in the cadence, so you can kind of get lost in the music. I think sometimes if you're always looking at the numbers, you want the music to take you rather than the numbers to take you. And I think that way the time flies by quicker as well.
Which speaks to the quote that you mentioned. It's all about the music taking you, and you have to be open to what's next and what's possible. And on that bike, when it comes to physical things, losing yourself and discovering what is possible for you and how you can be better, which is that's what all of your journey is about, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah. And when I know when members are on the bike, that those 30 minutes when they're there, it's like their own personal sanctuary to kind of get away from work or whatever they have to do. So, that's another reason why it motivates me to kind of be on top of my game every time, the red light turns on, because I know that maybe these 30 minutes are the only 30 minutes someone out there has to themselves for this sanctuary to kind of invest in, self-care and wellness.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Your story is motivating and it's inspiring. And as so many of us have read or seen, you're out there. And so to hear from you, it's been fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
There's a few things in Sam's story that I think I'm going to take away, and I hope you remember hearing them. But he talked about having clarity in the silence. How important is it, and how intentional do we all need to be to take a moment and to have some silence? And to move forward, we have to embrace the past. Some people have things in the past they don't want to look to, but to move forward, it's important to explore those things. And you have a voice. You have a story. We talk about it a lot on this podcast. use your voice, share your story, help someone else. And let's figure out a way to have a party where we sit in a circle and we all have the energy and the stories flow. Doesn't that sound fantastic? My hope is Sam's story empowers you to believe you're capable of more than you think, to discover motivation, to uncover inspiration, and to find the strength to turn the page.
Thank you for listening to Flip Your Script, hosted by Kristi Piehl and produced by Media Minefield. If you like our message, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also check out flipyourscriptpodcast.com for pictures, resources mentioned in the show, and information about our other great episodes.